Homburger Erikson was a German-born American psychoanalyst, psychologist, professor, and author. He is best known for his theory on psychosocial development and for introducing the concept of an identity crisis. Erikson is one of the most cited psychologists of the 20th century. He was born June 15th, 1902 in Frankfurt, Germany. Original name, Erik Solomonson. Parents is his mom was Carla Abrahamson and his father was unknown. He was later named Erik Homburger. Erik's mother, Carla Abrahamson, was born of privilege from Copenhagen, Denmark, and she was also Jewish. She was married but separated at the time of Erik's birth from a man named Valdemar Isidor Solomonson, who was also Jewish and worked as a stockbroker. She ran away to Frankfurt after finding out she was pregnant and assumingly ashamed of not being married to the father. Carla and Erik later moved to Karlsruhe, Germany, where she met and married Theodor Homburger in 1905. In 1911, he adopted Erik, and his name became Erik Homburger. Erik's education started in Bismarck Gymnasium in Karlsruhe. He was there from 1912 to 1920, and then later attended the art school of the Academy de that's a long word der Bildenden instead of medical school like his stepfather. It did not last long. He later left and spent some time to travel and wander around Europe trying to basically find himself. He covered his personal expenses by selling or trading his art sketches with people he met on his travels. After traveling for a while, Erikson came to the conclusion that he did not want to be a full-time artist, so he decided to return home to Karlsruhe and teach art. Erikson was eventually hired by a wealthy woman to sketch and tutor her children. As he did a very good job, he was soon hired by several other families. Some of the families Erik worked with were friends with Sigmund Freud and his daughter Anna. When Erikson was 25 years old, his friend Peter Bloss and Anna Freud invited him to Vienna, Austria, to tutor children at the Burlingham Rosenfeld School. Erik was asked to tutor the students in art, geography, and history. These students had wealthy parents who were undergoing psychoanalysis with Anna Freud at the time. When Anna observed how well Erik worked with the children in his care, she urged him to enroll at the Vienna Psychoanalytic Institute. Erik enrolled and later specialized in child psychoanalysis. In 1930, Erikson married Joan Serson, who worked at the school with Erikson. They later went on to evade Hitler's crusade in Europe with their first son and fled to America in 1933. The couple went on to have 3 more children, but only claimed a total of 3. After one was born with disabilities and placed in an institution by Erikson himself when the child was born. His daughter Sue actually made a memoir about that 4th brother. In the Shadow of Fame, she speaks on finding out about the fourth brother, or about her third brother, Neil Erikson. And there is very little known about him. But at first they were told Neil had died, but he had not, when he was born, but he had not died at all. He had been institutionalized while his wife was still unconscious from anesthesia. Erikson, with the help of Margaret Mead, made the decision to institutionalize the child, whom they were told would not survive much beyond infancy, and then later finding out he lived to be the age of 21. Her mother, according to Miss Blowland, accepted this decision, but it created emotional turmoil and tension in the family. It was a crushing narcissistic blow for her to have such a child, and at the same time she felt guilty about her own paralysis in the matter. When she got angry at Erik for sending Neil away, he was devastated and withdrew. A consequence of these dynamics, the marriage was shaken to its foundation and the couple considered divorce. Her father was involved in a relationship with a research assistant, and her mother, very distressed, went for a week to see Frida from Reichman in Taos, New Mexico, and felt considerable relief as a result. And all this is in her memoirs, again, in The Shadow of Fame. In his career, Erikson became the first child psychoanalyst in Boston. And again, this is after him and his wife fled Europe, and they just had that one child in the 30s. And he held a position at Massachusetts General Hospital, also the Judge Baker Guidance Center, and at Harvard Medical School and psychological clinic. This was while he was establishing a singular reputation as a clinician. In 1936, Erikson left Harvard and joined the staff at Yale University, where he worked at the Institute of Social Relations and taught at the medical school. In 1938, he left Yale to study the Sioux tribe in South Dakota on their reservation. After his studies in South Dakota, he traveled to California to study the Yurok tribe. Erikson discovered differences between the children of the Sioux and Yurok tribes. This marked the beginning of Erikson's life passion of showing the importance of events in childhood and how society affects them. From 1951 to 1960, he worked and taught at the Austin Riggs Center, a prominent psychiatric treatment facility in Stockbridge, Massachusetts. He later returned to Harvard in the 1960s as a professor of human development and remained there until his retirement in 1970. Erik Erikson is mainly known for his theory of development. There are 8 stages in his theory. Stage 1, trust versus mistrust. Infancy to 18 months. And it's basically, can I trust the people around me? And has a basic virtue of hope. And it's mainly centered around feeding and setting up the very first caregiving relationships. Stage 2, autonomy versus shame and doubt. And this is from toddler years 18 months to 3 years old. And Erikson believed that if you are a parent and you have interacted with a child between the ages of 18 months and 3 years, then I'm going to have to scratch that. Autonomy is an important part of development for children. Autonomy allows children to exercise their critical thinking skills, feel comfortable in their bodies, gain a greater sense of their identity, learn from their own mistakes, make decisions independently, and process their emotions. Stage 3, initiative versus guilt. The preschool years from 3 to 5. And the stage 4 is industry versus inferiority. Middle school years from 6 to 11. Stage 4, industry versus inferiority. Middle school years from 6 to 11. Stage 5, identity versus confusion. 10 years from 12 to 18 years old. Stage 6, intimacy versus isolation. Young adult years from 18 to 40. Stage 7, generativity versus stagnation. Middle age from 40 to 65. And stage 8, integrity versus despair. Older adulthood from 65 to death. The people who influenced Erikson the most was Sigmund Freud and his daughter Anna Freud, Margaret Mead, and Ruth Benedict. He only met Sigmund Freud once at a party while he was working for Anna Freud in Vienna. But Anna, Margaret, and Ruth were all a part of his life and very important parts of his life. In 1973, the National Endowment for the Humanities gave an opportunity to Erikson to lecture at the Jefferson Lecture, the United States' highest honor for achievement in the humanities. His lecture was called Dimensions of a New Identity. Erikson won a Pulitzer Prize for the contribution in the field of psychology through his writings and a U.S. National Book Award in category Philosophy and Religion for his book Gandhi's Truth in 1969. Erik Erikson died May 24, 1994 in Rosewood Manor, Harvard, Massachusetts, which is actually Cape Cod. Erikson's influence is mainly contributed to early years education. He helped both teaching professionals and parents understand better how people, especially children, can form their own identities through the different life stages and developments they go through. His model identified the different goals, challenges, and concerns at each stage of life, which helps educators and parents alike guide and encourage children in the right direction. And this ends with one of his quotes: "Hope is both the earliest and the most indispensable virtue inherent in the state of being alive. If life is to be sustained, hope must remain. Even where confidence is wounded, trust impaired."